Aloha, I'm Brad Bordessa from liveukulele.com, and in this video I'm going to continue on with the subject of reggae style strums. In this video I'm going to talk about the Jawaiian strum, which is basically Hawaii's localized answer to Jamaican reggae. The guys here heard Bob Marley and that style stuff, and kind of in the 90s they came out with their own localized style of reggae, which is a little more friendly sounding, maybe a little more happy and playful, and this strum was sort of the center of that sound. So it differs only slightly from the original reggae strum, but sounds quite a lot different and is played a little bit differently. So for this one, we're still starting the strum on the 2 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But what's going to happen is you're always going to play this one starting with a down strum. With the other version, the simple reggae skank, you can play with a down strum or an up strum depending on what sort of sound you want. But with this one, you're going to always start on the down, because right after you play the down, you're going to come back up on the and of the beat. So if we were to get the timing together, it'd be 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. You play on the 2 and the 4 and. Both, so 2 sets of 2 strums, right? So altogether, if you count it, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. So you're strumming down on the 2 or the 4, and you're strumming up on the and that follows that count, right? So when we have any ands in a bar of counting, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4 in a bar and divide it into 4 pieces. If you want to divide that bar into 8 pieces and have more sort of slots available for creating timing interest and different rhythms, you usually break it down by giving each of the beats an and that you also count. So if I was to count 1, 2, 3, 4 to create 8 little bits, I'd count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'm just doubling the amount of things that are happening in the bar, even though the tempo stays the same. So in this case, we're playing on 2, which is a downbeat, and, which is the upbeat. So down strum, up strum. And just like in the original reggae chank, you're going to want to mute the chords in between, otherwise it sounds like this, which might be appropriate for some songs, but definitely not so much a Jawaiian or reggae style. So to get the sound you want, again, refer back to the first video for the 3 different muting techniques. But for the way that this strum falls, 9 times out of 10, I'm probably going to lean on using a full fretted chord, and lifting my fingers up, okay? And because you're actually playing 2 strums, you would of course mute on the long end, right? Mute where there's the big gap between the strums, and that it would land after the and up strum, right? So after that you would mute. So 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. But just because of the way it falls under your fingers, sometimes it's easier to think of this chord muting technique as a squeeze when you want to hear the sound, as opposed to lifting when you don't want to hear the sound. It's a little counterintuitive, but if I'm at rest with my fingers just muting the strings, kind of shadowing over where the chord is going to happen, and then when I strum and I know that I want to make a sound, I squeeze with my fretting hand to drop the chord into place and create, let it ring. I find that because you're strumming and squeezing at the same time, it's a little bit more natural to make those motions happen sort of, at the same time, as opposed to trying to think, okay, I'm holding down the chord and then I'm strumming and then I'm going to release. That creates 2 completely separate motions. Whereas if you do them at the same time and think squeeze when you want to hear a sound, it makes it a little bit easier, at least in my mind. but do whatever works for you. The benefit of also doing this squeeze technique is you can mute in between the beat and. 2 and 4 and. You can actually mute the 2 and the 4 strum on the down. So if you listen to what I'm actually playing, I'm actually muting in between both of the down and the up strums. So each strum is really short. Bump, 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 bump. So it's kind of like a heartbeat when you play that. And I think trying to think of it as lifting off when you don't want to hear the sound is going to be really confusing, especially when you try and do that double bump, 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 bump. It's easier just to think squeeze, 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 squeeze. So that's the basic idea with the Jawaiian strum. There's not a whole lot more to it. You can, of course, try the other muting styles and see if that works best. For me, simply the full fingered chord is going to be easiest in most situations. But give it a whirl and see what you can come up with. This is the Jawaiian strum. In the next video, I'm going to talk about the ska strum. Until next time, aloha.